For the sake of time, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Lizzie Jones. I'm with the Learning Agency team, which is an organizer of the Data Science for Everyone Coalition. We're really excited to have you all here today for this networking session on workforce readiness with Mark Zachar of the Northwestern Mutual Data Science Institute. And the first part of the session, we'll host a mini Ask Me Anything with Mark, where he will first share remarks on workforce readiness before opening it up to questions from you, which I invite you to post those in the chat at any time during the presentation. And after the Ask Me Anything portion of the event, we'll open up a series of 10-minute breakout sessions where you will get to network informally in small groups, and Mark will be going around and getting shuffled into those rooms with you so that you can talk a little bit more about this topic. And so to introduce our speaker, Mark Zachar is the Data Science Talent Ecosystem Program Lead at Northwestern Mutual. Mark specializes in education industry partnerships, which he does via internships, non-traditional talent pipelines, and talent communities. By doing so, he attracts and retains a diverse core data and analytics team. And I will now give Mark the floor to talk a little bit more about his work before answering any questions you may have. Thank you so much, Mark.
Sure, Lizzie. Hopefully you can see my screen.
All good.
All right. So welcome to the track. This has been an incredible afternoon. Hopefully you're getting as much out of it as I am. So my job is to warm up this room so that we can spend the next 50 minutes after I'm done networking with each other. So Lizzie gave me an introduction already, but I have this incredible job in a fintech company to do core data and analytics talent work, which means I'm responsible for our training, learning, and development, our internship program, our non-traditional hiring program, K-12 outreach, and our Tech for Good, Data for Good work. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer and a former high school computer science and engineering teacher. So Lydia Logan from IBM mentioned this just a couple hours ago about why companies are involved in this work. Northwestern Mutual has a multi-dimensional talent strategy, which includes K-12 all the way through non-traditional pipelines. So we know that there's great value in having a diverse workforce. So we need to increase the entry-level folks in that pipeline. We want that pipeline to be as diverse as possible. And we can't accomplish what we want to as a business without that diversity. So we're investing in the communities where we live and work, in Milwaukee and in New York, so that our workforce is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with Northwestern Mutual, it's a 160-year-old company. We have almost 5 million clients, and we have a huge financial professional network and a home office that supports those financial professionals so that our clients have financial well-being, whether that's through life insurance or other investment products. We're headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with a suburban campus and one in New York as well. Data is transforming Northwestern Mutual. It's at the core of our client experience, whether that's through accelerated underwriting, compliance, risk, marketing, and of course, financial planning. So our data organization has gone from just a couple hundred people to over 300 people just in the last 2 years. The amount of data that we have from our clients, it needs to be treated very carefully and used for their benefit. So if you calculate our tech workforce, our data workforce, and our digital workforce, it's half of the people that we have working at Northwestern Mutual. One of the ways Northwestern Mutual is contributing to the regional ecosystem is by having launched in 2018 the Northwestern Mutual Data Science Institute. It's a partnership between Marquette and UW-Milwaukee for 3 purposes: to drive research, to develop talent, and to invest in our communities through Data for Good work. All right, this is where I want to spend just maybe less than 4 minutes just to sum up what I heard today and how Northwestern Mutual is doing this work. You heard from Anthony Owen from Arkansas earlier on that there's huge efforts in CS for all and computer science education. We are also investing in STEM being at the core of our outreach work. Because there are still many classrooms that do not have access to computer science or coding clubs or even Hour of Code. So we are invested in this work for the long haul. We are starting with STEM, and then we are layering on top of that data literacy and our data science education efforts. My new point to think on this slide is that as a company, we are invested in this work by having a staff that does this work. K-12 outreach as a committee or as volunteerism in industry can work. It can work, but we are doing this work because we have a 3-person staff plus talent managers like myself that can take and develop a strategy around it. Then they can pull in the HR function, the foundation, and our philanthropic arm, our PR teams, and together internally, we have a huge amount of best practices in building this internal and external ecosystem for K-12, both on computer science, STEM, and data science. When we do the breakouts, I like to know what's the thing in your heart that brought you here today. That highlight reel was amazing. I mentioned that I was an educator, and I really do miss being in the classroom. And so every time that I can volunteer, either because it's my job or because it's an extra effort that I'm making, I love being in the classroom and directly impacting students. And there's incredible curriculums that we've heard about today out there that we can leverage to make that classroom work happen. Finally, on this slide, the do. We do not do this work alone. We don't try to do this work alone. We have, like I said, investments in ecosystem work like the Northwestern Mutual Data Science Institute, the Milwaukee Tech Hub, the Milky Way Tech Hub. We look for partners where we can create a win-win for both of us, where we are investing in the pipeline, but we are also leveraging the expertise of schools, of nonprofits. We invest our people power, but our financial resources to grow that ecosystem. And so for corporations that are on the call that are about the same size, hopefully you have somebody on staff that's doing this work, and you are also finding partners in your ecosystem that can help you do it. 2 quick highlights, and then I'll end. Some wins. Our intern program in core data and analytics has grown to be 10% of our full-time staff. So we have almost 30 interns in a 300-person org that are the majority underrepresented in tech. They are converting to be full-time employees at a rate of over 70%. So we are recruiting them out of our universities nationally and locally, and keeping them on our staff. One recent other win was that with the Milky Way Tech Hub I mentioned, to not go alone, is we worked with that nonprofit to go into 3 middle schools, expose 75+ students to the topic of data science and data visualization. We then hosted a competition at the local science museum, Discovery World, where those teams then competed for a prize, and then the winning team can then decide whether they want to take their prize winnings to further develop the idea that they had, or invest it in a club that they have, or a class that they have at the school. So it was a really great spring semester opportunity we just wrapped up last month. So I'm at my time. Thanks for listening. I'm going to stop my screen share. I look forward to networking with you. I look forward to making a commitment to data science for everyone. And I'm open to your questions, whether about Northwestern Mutual as an employer or the work that we're doing in K-12. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mark. While we wait and give people the opportunity to ask more questions in the chat, a question I have for you is, what are some future innovations or possibilities that you think could really change the way we approach data science and workforce readiness? You come at this from a unique background of being both a former educator and now where you are at Northwestern Mutual. If you could, pick one big change or something down the line that you think could change the way workforce readiness and data science go, what do you think that would be?
We are trying to make it as easy as possible to bring industry volunteers into the classroom. And so at Northwestern Mutual, we have volunteered paid time off. So you don't have to use your personal time to go and volunteer. You also don't have to always just flex your hours to volunteer. So we have volunteer time off, and we have lots of employees that are taking advantage of that. And through these ecosystem partners, we're trying to find the very best way to match those industry volunteers with the classroom partners, whether that's through an intermediate nonprofit, like I mentioned, the Milky Way Tech Hub, the Milwaukee Tech Hub, the Data Science Institute, or whether that's through to teachers themselves. And so we're trying to find the most efficient way to make that happen so that students can see folks in their classroom, whether that's via Zoom or in person, traveling to their classrooms. And I think there's, prior to this, I was also working with the Microsoft Teals program where we had software engineers going to classrooms, helping teach computer science. And I think there's an opportunity for something like that for data science, for bringing data scientists, data analysts directly into the classroom. So they're working hand in hand with the teacher and giving the teacher a little bit of relief when they can, because they have such a tough job day in and day out.
Thank you so much. Before I have another question I can ask, but I want to open it up to the room. If anybody would either like to put a question in the chat or just speak up, we'd love to hear from you. Daniela.
Thank you. My question is a little bit of piggybacking on what you asked, Lizzie, and what Mark just mentioned in bringing volunteers into the classroom. One of the challenges, and I represent an organization that is connected with data science, but it's in the K-12 education as well, which is adapting content or pivoting to K-12 when you come from like a professional environment. So isn't it hard for you to connect those professionals who are using data science in a very elaborate, sophisticated approach to the classroom where they're going to be, working with teachers? How do you break down that difference between what is, data science for professional use and how do you teach that in schools?
Yeah, my direct experience with that is not to reinvent the wheel as a professional, to leverage the incredible resources and curriculums and activities that are out there from the folks that are part of this Data Science for Everyone coalition. That resources page on the website is amazing, right? That there are professional curriculum specialists, teachers, folks that are connecting it to the standards that we can use, that we don't have to take multiple hours of time to develop the activity, to choose the data sets, to figure out the timing of all the activities and the handoffs. We can go straight to the Data Science for Everyone website. We can find the free curriculums that are out there, the activities that are out there, put those in the hands of the volunteer and the teacher, find our roles, before we're in the classroom in front of the students, find out like what needs to be printed, the technology access, whether they need Google Sheets or what have you, and then we're rolling. We didn't have to build it prior to getting there. And so that making that and putting that in the hands of the volunteer and the teacher has been a game changer for us. And so we're out of the space of reinventing the wheel now. Like, we don't need to do that. We don't need to take a data scientist on our staff and say, okay, now go write a data science activity. They don't need to do that. It's already out there and done for us through the partners that are on the call.
Thank you.
And just to highlight what Mark is saying, many of our commitment makers this year and last year in 2021, their commitments involved releasing free resources, many of which you can go ahead and find on the resources page. And we will be updating that soon with additional resources from our 2022 commitment makers. Lou Bracamonte. Oh, sorry, that's someone in the waiting room. I thought that was a hand raising. Anyone else have any questions before I ask my other one that I have? Yes, Irwin.
Hi. I've seen a lot of data that suggests that there's only so much need for data scientists. And so to the degree that we're creating a high level of interest in steering people towards data science, A, do you think there are going to be enough jobs out there for them? And B, it seems to me that if you say to people by analogy, how many of you want to be a surgeon? You're going to get a small number of people saying yes. If you say, how many of you think you could contribute in the medical field, that's going to be a larger number of people. And by analogy, I think there's an argument that there's a whole bunch of really good and interesting aspects of data science that isn't necessarily in the machine learning side and the more advanced methodology side that really could raise people's usefulness in whatever their profession is by having a better grasp of data visualization methods and interpreting data and being a wise consumer of the products of data science researchers with more skills. So how do you view that kind of issue as people are drawn into this data science domain?
Yeah, what I hear you saying is a problem no matter what industry role you have, is don't put yourself in a silo. So don't let, my title even used to be data science talent lead. I'm just a data talent lead. Like I whether I'm trying to develop data science talent, data analytics talent, data engineering talent, machine learning talent, I don't need to put myself just in the bucket of data science. And as we do, I forget who the speaker was earlier, but they mentioned this, that there's increasing levels of complexity and activity that we can do in the pipeline. And the base is with math, with logic, with reasoning, and then data literacy. And then from there, we can make specialty investments, whether with the data cleansing, the data engineering, the data science, the modeling, the statistics, things like that. So we do ourselves a disservice by siloing these professions. And then even, and I'm gonna be careful not to stick my foot in my mouth, but like there's huge efforts being made in like AI for K-12 or AI programs, right? And whether can we back that up a little bit and start with the base of statistics, reasoning, data literacy, and then eventually students will get to understand what does it mean, what does AI even mean. And on the topic of Erwin, you said the field. We are a tech, digital, data, fintech company, right? And we are not siloing ourselves to just being a data org that's doing this work. Our whole tech company does this work. And on the business side, just to give you a little peek behind the curtain, our data teams are not all on the same team. Data at Northwestern Mutual is democratized in the company. So we have data scientists that are part of our real estate group. We have data scientists that are part of our investments group. We have data scientists that are part of our client group. So likewise, we should not silo the investments that we're making in the community. So thanks for asking. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, and we'll do our one last question with, I feel like I might mispronounce your name, Sane.
No worries, it's Sana, and I know it's a weird one. So, so I want to follow up on the question of sort of, where is the, like, how much need is there for data scientists? So I direct a program at the Stanford Graduate School of Education, where we just launched a new master's program of data science within education. So it's a little bit less about educators teaching data science, but more about utilizing data science in education research. And when I was thinking about workforce readiness, I was also wondering to a degree, and this was also, Marcus, what you mentioned, you don't want to silo things, so you have data scientists and all kinds of sort of groups. It's sort of this awareness that you need a particular kind of domain expertise to really thoughtfully apply data science to important topics and issues in our society. And so my question is, do you think that we are not sort of utilizing data science enough in particular areas? And how do we really understand where the need for data science is? That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. On the business side, yeah, I'm lucky to be embedded on a core data and analytics team that we have those domain experts on those teams. We have data engineers and data scientists. We also have subject matter experts, product managers, scrum masters, right? That are covering that work from all different angles, right? So that's covered like on the business side. I think for students to be able to understand that the context and content of the data matters is that they have to, and I do think there's curriculums out there that do this, they have to be passionate about the question at hand and the data at hand, right? Like, I love that when you go to, what's the open data portal, the challenge website. Oh, why am I blanking on it? Starts with a K, Kaggle. When you go to Kaggle, right, and you can find any data set for whatever topic you'd like, whether it's sports, whether it's health, right? And so I'm most attracted to, and I think students are most attracted to, data that means something to them, data that connects with their personal experience. And so hopefully that answers your question. That I on the business side, we got it handled, but in order to invest in the talent, I think that students have to be passionate about the data that they're working with as well, and the question at hand, right? If it's not connected to their life experience, it's unlikely that they're going to follow through on the problem at hand.
Thank you so much. So I just put this in the chat. I want this to be productive and useful to everyone. This conversation is going so well here in the main room. We can certainly stay here and keep doing Q&As, or we can move to the breakout sessions. If you have an opinion, put a 1 if you would like to stay in the main room in the chat, and put a 2 if you'd like breakout rooms. And something I wanted to mention of coming from, so I do this work with the Data Science for Everyone Coalition, but I have my PhD in literature and from the humanities. And I can say that I would have had a much more diverse time and an easier time looking for jobs if I had some even just very basic data science skills that I could have put on my resume. So even though I was a really good researcher, I didn't know some of these more quantified skills. And so that's just another vote of where do people need data science? I, as someone who studied Latin American literature, could have used putting that down on my resume to have been able to use some of the other knowledge that I had in other domains. Okay, it seems like people are really into staying here, so let's stick to it. And Valerie, let's go to your question.
Oh, Valerie from the
Hi,
Data
Mark.
Lodge. Hi, Valerie.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Good.
I'm not going to ask you a hard question. So in full transparency, so I'm Valerie Logan. I run a company called the Data Lodge, and I help companies and governments put data literacy programs in place for the workforce. And Mark and his team and his colleagues are actually one of our clients, and we work together. So I haven't met you, Mark, but Michelle and I chatted this morning. But for the group, I think, Erwin, you struck a chord in your comment, and I want to circle back to it, because in your comment, you were saying, is there really this need and demand for data science specifically versus it being more of a core competency? And if I gathered that right, and I think your question relates back to something I'm observing more broadly, which is this general using the terms data literacy and data science equally, and they're not the same thing. And so we run into this all the time with organizations saying, hey, we want to build a data literacy program. And then they'll say, oh, we want to create data scientists. And then other times, then people saying we want a data literacy program and people being scared that it's data science. So all I wanted to contribute is I think we need to get really intentional in when we're using these terms and what do we mean by each of them. And even in the coalition and data science for everyone, we're using those terms, I think, too loosely, and it's confusing. So what I would offer is the way that I explain the distinction, and I'm an original math major and operations research gal. I mean, I come from a quant background, but when talking about data literacy, the way I distinguish the two terms is that data literacy, first of all, is a combination of business acumen, data acumen, and analytical acumen. Meaning business acumen is what problem are you solving? Data acumen is, do you understand the data sources and attributes and quality and things like that? And then analytics is where you get into the methods of analysis, which include the body of work around data science. So data literacy, to me, at least the way that I've chosen to distinguish it, is data literacy is the lowest common denominator. Data science is where you develop a degree of proficiency in analytics, in some body of work around analytics. But unless we get clear on those terms, I think we're going to miss some incredible opportunities. And Erwin, I think your question tapped into that, because I think when we're talking about data science and data scientists, that is a narrow set of occupations versus data science and data literacy as a basis for critical thinking, data storytelling, visualization, business problem solving. So I'd love reactions to that. Am I the only one that's kind of missing, thinking that we're being a little too loose in those terms? And Erwin?
Valerie, I would add to that, Valerie, that, when I was teaching statistics in the university world, so I'm in a university, and I can't tell you how many students would come up to me and say, oh, this is really hard. I can't do this kind of thing. And I got them through the course. So there's a marketing component to attract people into the profession, and I think that's a good distinction you made about data literacy versus data science. I think there's a huge need for data literacy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how big the need is for data science, although I'm not saying it's not highly valuable, but even well-crafted data science projects don't have consumers and management that understand the real value of what the results show. So there's another issue there too.
Well, and to your point, Erwin, around the marketing, when we're designing workforce data literacy programs, we're talking about data literacy for the masses of organizations. One of the key elements of a data literacy program is the engagement and the communication strategy, because you have to clarify what is it that we're even talking about with data literacy. And then there's, of course, training and professional development, et cetera. But I think you're exactly right. The marketing and how you even frame it is incredibly important, because those that don't live and breathe in data and analytics functions don't know the distinction. So we need to be really clear. And Lizzie, I see you nodding. I don't know if that's something that the coalition is, or the DSC is. I would volunteer to support work in clarifying that distinction.
Yes, you are correct that this is something that is coming up, and data science for everyone has such ambitious and broad goals that they in the organization and the coalition wants to do so many different things. But you are correct in touching on that these are complementary and parallel skills, but slightly different. And I think that's something that we've also seen in the area of curriculum implementation is this marketing bit of people getting kind of spooked by the idea of data science or thinking that it only goes in a math classroom or only goes in, or data literacy skills too, that those data literacy is something that you need across the disciplines, no matter what
That's
they
right.
are. And trying to get people to broadly frame what they think data literacy is and where it belongs. So that way it doesn't just get stuck in debates about math pathways, which people have very heated opinions about. And that can kind of stop some of the progress that could otherwise be made in these necessary skills.
Absolutely.
I'll go to Michaela first and then Lee Ellen.
Okay, thank you. I have to apologize if I'm a little unclear because I'm fighting COVID right now, so my brain isn't on all cylinders. But I just wanted to bring up, so I found an executive director for the Academic Data Science Alliance, and so we're a organization that builds communities for data scientists in academia, but with, of course, colleagues who are in industry and other sectors. And I just find it funny that this is the discussion around kind of defining data literacy and data science is sort of a continuation of that same conversation of what is data science, because I get frustrated now when people say, oh, it's all about AI or machine learning. And I'm like, no, that's all still data science. So is visualization, so is storytelling. All of these things are skills that data scientists in general should have, or at least a data science team needs. So, it's difficult to find the unicorn that is good at everything, but when you have a data science team, you need somebody who can do that kind of communication. And a data ethicist is also a data scientist, right? So there's lots of facets to data science that aren't just the statistics and the coding. And I think being more inclusive in our definition is only going to make it less scary and more accessible to folks across the spectrum of demographics, of lived experiences, and those are the people that really should be involved. So I agree that that the most broad net should be data literacy. I think everybody in society should have some aspect of data literacy, but when you talk about data science, I just want to be careful not to say, well, data science is just the super analytical part and everything else is not data science, because I would sort of disagree or push back on that a little.
That was very coherent, by the way. Great, thank you.
Thank
so much. Lee Ellen.
Yes, thank you. So Michaela, I love that. And I think that's a great point. I was just going to chime in with part of what Valerie is saying and Erwin. So I'm with SAS, which is a global analytics company. So obviously a lot of what SAS does really does focus on analytics, data science, training folks, and then the application of that obviously across all organizations. I particularly am in social innovation, where we focus more on data for good and the really promoting those skills of data literacy, coding, and AI within education. And so I think this distinction, I think we're all kind of saying the same thing, but I applaud the conversation because the way we look at it is that data literacy really is that foundational skill, that is something that everyone needs, which I think is something many of us have already said. So that this is something that we need to teach everyone, and everyone needs to understand the value, whereas data science, as you said, kind of ratchets it up many levels, really to that level of expertise. And Michaela, I think you're right. It doesn't have to be cornered into one particular degree necessarily. But I think that data literacy, that piece is something that our smaller group within SAS is really focused on, even in combination with things like media literacy, to say, this is something that everyone needs to have an understanding about. We're presented with data every day, day in, day out. We may not always recognize it, and we have to make sure that we can understand it and speak about it accurately.
Thank you so much. Mark, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just I don't know if you're all familiar with it, and I'm not going to dig it up and show it, but like there was at one point like a data science hierarchy of needs, like a diagram where like the base on the base was data science, and then as it went up the pyramid, there was like machine learning, and then AI was at the very top, like this precipice of all things tech and data, and only for the elite of the elite sort of thing. And I think we've that model has expired, and I see that even the coalition says that maybe it will change eventually, like data literacy for everyone, but it even says that advanced data science education, so that every K-12 student is equipped with data literacy needed to succeed in our modern world, right? Like data literacy is at the core of the coalition, which I really do appreciate. The last point on this topic is that whether I hire interns that have a data science degree or a math degree or a software engineering degree, once I have them in our organization, I'm having to rotate them around if they want to start to explore the different roles that we have. And so, right, like I'm hiring for all those roles. I'm hiring for analysts, visualization team, analytics engineers, and data engineers, right, and SQL engineers. And what I'm realizing is that they hopefully, right, they've come out of their university experience with a great core skill set in SQL and Python, in communication, right? That once they're in Northwestern Mutual, if they didn't land their internship on the exact right team right when they first applied, I can rotate them to a different one, and eventually maybe it takes one, maybe it takes two rotations. They find that career path that is the right fit for them, and that's really hard to explore. That's really hard to explore as a college student. That's really hard to explore as a high school or a K-12 student, and that's a problem that I don't know if anyone's addressing. Is how do you differentiate all those roles in data to a young person? I think it starts with them being really data literate, and then as they get as they increase their education, whether it's high school or college, they realize the vast variety of roles they can have in their career.
Thank you so much, Mark. With the yes, Ryan.
Yes, hello everyone. So I feel like everyone here are experts on this field, and I'm very new to the data science field. I work at DataCamp in the social impact department. And so DataCamp, if you don't know, is just a data science learning platform. And I wanted to tell everyone that, I mean, your conversation is very spot on, because you are working in this field, but even us at DataCamp, we have courses that are very technical related. And now we are also putting a big focus on data literacy courses, which do not involve any type of coding, do not involve any type of using, using spreadsheets or stuff like that. It's just some kind of gaming thing and videos to really allow people to understand the basis of data science, or even ethical treatment of data and topics like that. So you are fully, your debate is also a debate we have in-house. And at the social impact team at DataCamp, we have two programs. We have classrooms, and so we give free access to DataCamp to teachers and students in university, and we want to expand it to high schools, and then hopefully to even middle schools and primary schools. And we also work on the donate side, where we give free DataCamp licenses to nonprofits and people in disadvantaged communities. And I had a question for Mark, because we are now working with the Department of Education in New York City, and we try to understand how to engage very young kids and teenagers on data camp and on data science classes, and you were talking about volunteerings you were doing with K-12 students, and I was wondering if the volunteering you were doing was taking different forms, if you are, for example, volunteering with high school students, or if you are volunteering with kids who are 8 or 9 years old. Is it always a class that will be given, or will you incorporate more games, or will it be the volunteering will be over the course of a whole week if it's for younger kids? I was just wondering, does the format changes? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Ryan. Actually, Data Camp is one of the top requests for licenses at Northwestern Mutual for professional development. It's an incredible platform. So props to you all for knocking it out of the park in terms of professional development. On how we interact with schools, on our school partners, is that it is all, like you've alluded to, it is all over the map. There are we've had to craft our own educational strategy, and we have our own partner schools, and we've done that work with our foundation and with our technology team and our data team. We'll also try to be the very best partners and listen to the needs of to the teachers and the districts that we want to serve, and we want to then find our talent in. And so some schools have, like just take high school, for example, where my roots are. Some schools have an intro to Python class. Some schools have a 4-year computer science program, and you can come in with a whole new elective on data science or data literacy, and they're ready for that. Other schools are not even yet started, and so our volunteers are going into schools, into classrooms if that's where the education is happening already, or into clubs, right? We've brought data literacy into the after school program, Girls Who Code. We also are bringing, like I said, we have this new ecosystem partner, the Milky Way Tech Hub, and they went into middle schools. And when we listened to the middle school teachers, half the middle school teachers said, come on into our math classroom and we'll figure out which unit it will add data literacy into the math unit that we're in. Other middle schools said, no, our math unit is boxed. You cannot change it at all. And so we had to go in after school, right? So we're trying to be the best partner that we can be to the school, listen to what their needs are, and it is all over the map. And so it is not a one size fits all solution on the volunteer or even on the funding side from our STEM outreach.
I also wanted to signal, we have a surprising amount of commitment makers in this session. And this is another commitment maker that's not here, but just shows the creative abilities of bringing data science in. I'm going to link to the project, but it's a collaboration between NYU, Fordham, and one other entity, I think, that does data science through the arts. So they went into middle school art and dance classrooms and combined units where students were doing things like making dances alongside some data literacy work as well. Or there was one about making memes with data and making comics with data and things like that just show that there are a lot of this creativity that Mark is talking about, and this flexibility to be adaptable to these different environments, shows that there's a lot of possibility out there as well. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Catherine.
Hi, just wanted to get on camera, sorry. Can you hear me okay? I know that DSE's purview is K-12 education, which I am definitely involved in. I've been working in data literacy initiatives since about 2015 with the Big Data Hub at Columbia University. And so I know this is slightly outside of your purview of K-12 education, but I just wanted to add a note about communities and community members that basically anybody that has a cell phone would help them to be what I think of as data literate. And I think it's great that this conversation about what's data literacy, what's data science, and I like the term data citizenship, which might be more what I'm talking about, which is more on the side of data privacy and security and ethics, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to sort of, I don't know, raise a flag for those communities. And I work mostly with underserved communities, unhoused populations, and Native American people who might own a cell phone, but may not be thinking about a data science career, although we want them to be thinking about a data science career. So that was a question, actually, is pathways, and maybe this is a question for Mark, I don't know, pathways for people who maybe don't really come from a college-bound background. And are there, I don't know if it would be career fairs or counselors or in-house programs that work to connect with those kinds of people who might be a little bit off the, the track that we might be thinking about. And thank you so much. This has been a great afternoon.
A resource, someone I wanted to ping for you, Catherine, that you might be interested in is Kristen Hunter Thompson of DataSpire. DataSpire just committed to rolling out more data science and data literacy programs specifically on tribal lands.
Oh, really?
DataSpire. And across the curriculum. So in social studies and English classes and things like that, but specifically targeting that sort of environment. And I feel like there was one other resource I have all these, I've been living in data science for everyone commitment land for a while. So I have them all in my head. But yeah, you're right. I'm from a very rural area. These tend to be areas that just get less focus. Oh, career tech ed. We have a lot of states are building data science into their career tech ed pathways and their computer science programs into their career tech pathways as well. And that tends to be an area of schools that attracts people who are not necessarily looking for a 4-year degree after they're done with high school, but is building it in there in a way that I think can make it more accessible to people as well. But I'd love to hear from Mark and other people who are more involved on the industry side of things with that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Catherine, you asked two very, I heard two questions there. So I just want to mention and give a shout out to Valerie from the Data Lodge, because when we go and do the data for good work that you alluded to, and we go and try to help a nonprofit or a community group, we start with Valerie's model from the Data Lodge with value, it's called the VIA model. If you look up data literacy, VIA, value, information, and analytics, and we walk through the intake of that new Data for Good project through that model and through a design conversation before we begin the project, whether it's an actual analytics project or what have you. So that's how we're doing the Data for Good work with our volunteers, and where we bring data literacy into the conversation right at intake. To the question about upskilling, reskilling, and non-traditional talent, we hire from boot camps, from providers, whether it's DevCode, Dev10, Lambda School. There's so many out there, and so to folks that are new to the space, I advise them to start with like the data camps or the free code camp, where there are two really great pathways on free code camp, one in Python, one in visualization. And if that exposure has piqued their interest, that they are ready to then increase their commitment to learning, then I recommend that they go to one of these providers that can pay them a wage through the camp, or have a contract to hire kind of situation, so that they they're not put out even more, right? Maybe financially, like maybe they may have when what prevented them, from going to getting their degree in the first place. So we do hire from those camps, and so we're always on the lookout for really great talent. But there's ways to take it slow and investigate whether what technology or data role they'd like to have before going all in on a 1 year or 2 year boot camp, and then finding out a couple months in that it's not the role that they wanted. Oh, the other provider is IC Stars. There's an IC Stars camp in Chicago and one here in Milwaukee, and they do a phenomenal job sourcing non-traditional talent and bringing them right to industry's front door.
Thanks so much, Mark. That is so great to hear. Glad to know about that, and glad you have all those resources at your fingertips. It's fantastic.
And thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the networking session. This has been such an enthusiastic and engaged conversation. We always hope that the Commitments event serves as a catalyst for you to think about your role in data science and data citizenship, data literacy, all of these things, and encourage you to make a commitment as well, you or your organization. The link for submitting a commitment is in the chat. We do post them in a directory and on our website. Feel free to, I'll drop my email here as well if you would like to reach out to me with any questions in particular, but we do invite you to post your commitments there. I also wanted to drop some links in the chat for other ways to be involved with data science for everyone. We have a Slack workspace that has conversation. People post events and opportunities, ask questions. The Data Science for Everyone website. We have a Twitter that we post opportunities. We highlight our commitment makers and the ongoing progress in commitments. And then that is the Data Science for Everyone email address. And there's a lot of different ways to be involved in the coalition's work. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to be with us here today. And we'll go ahead and wrap up this session. Thank you so much.